Hello everyone, welcome to the Dandelion Economics series. Today's video will be on topic 2.2, supply. So before we start talking about supply, let's start with two inquiry questions. Firstly, why is there a direct causal relationship between the price and quantity supplied? And secondly, what are the non-price determinants of supply? So these two will guide our discussion for this video as well as the next one. Please think about these questions while we go through our explanation. Firstly, starting with definition, as always. So supply is defined by the quantity of a good or service that producers are willing and able to offer at various prices during a specific time period, ceteris paribus. The focus here is similar to demand, willing and able. However, the subject of this definition is on producers instead of consumers that we mentioned earlier. So that is the amount that producers are willing, which is of their preference, and are able, which is of their ability during a specific time period. And then let's go through a deeper definition on what producers mean. So producers are defined by people, companies, or countries that make, grow, or supply goods, services, or resources in the market. This is important because we have to look at the different producer forms, which are mentioned briefly in the definition, but let's go through them more deeply down below. So there are various forms of producers. Firstly, it could be firms who sell final and intermediate goods in the product market. So this means that there are the products that are being sold. For example, soap, apple, pens. They're all product and they're all sold by firms who produce them. And then we have firms who sell raw materials in the resource market. So these could be the resource market, such as they sell resources such as pesticides to use in farming. They are selling resources instead of the final product. And then we have the labor market, which are households who offer their services. So as a household, I could be offering people who likely get employed in certain jobs and in certain disciplines. These are being transacted through the labor market. And then we have other forms, and these include government and other countries that produce and purchase goods, services, resources, and labor. So these include governments and other countries specifically. Similar to demand, we have different types of supply. And the definitions for these are similar to demand as well. So starting with individual supply, it means the supply of one product from one firm at every price. So they're individual. They're individually and independently sold by firms. And then we have market supply, which is the sum of all the individual supplies of a product at every price. So it is the summation of what we had in individual supply. In a market, we would have, if we have 5 suppliers, market supply would mean their aggregate supply of all these 5 producers. Next, let's go on to the law of supply. Again, corresponding to the law of demand. The law of supply means when the price of a good rises, the quantity supplied will usually rise, ceteris paribus, and vice versa. So when the price of a good increases, the quantity supplied increases. And we'll talk about why later on. But with this relationship, we can see that it is a direct, or in other words, positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. As one factor rises, the other factor will rise along with it. Why is this? It's because of the objective that firms have. They are driven by profit. They seek the opportunity to raise profit. So that's why we see this positive relationship. Here we have the diagram, and it illustrates what we just talked about. When the price increases from here to here, the quantity also increased. So that's how we can apply the law of supply to such a diagram. Lastly, let's talk about the changes to the supply curve. So there are two types of changes to the supply curve, and one is taken in the form of change in quantity supplied. And this, like demand, is the change in price of a product, and it causes the change in a move along the curve. So the curve itself doesn't move, but the point on the curve moves. And then we have the change in supply, and these are caused by the non-price determinants that will be discussed in the next video. So it's when these factors come into play, the entire supply curve shifts, and that's a change in supply. Before we end this video, I would also like to address the vertical supply, and this is a special case of the change or a form of supply. So under certain circumstances, the supply curve will be vertical at fixed quantity. Even as price increases, the quantity supplied cannot increase, it remains constant. And we can say that quantity supplied is independent of price, ceteris paribus. Why does this happen though? We have two main reasons. The first reason is that there is a fixed quantity of the good or service that's being produced or supplied, because there is simply no time to produce more of it. An example would be a fixed quantity of tickets for a concert, because a fixed number of seats at the stadium is a limited space, or a limited timing, because there wouldn't be time to build more seats of it even if the demand increases. So no matter how high the price is and how high the demand is, it would be impossible to increase the number of seats available in the short run. And then the next reason we have will be there is a fixed quantity of the good because there is no possibility of ever producing more of it. In other words, the supplier is no longer available. For instance, antiques or original artworks. So for famous artists who have passed away, it may be possible to make reproductions and replications, but it is impossible to make more of the original product. And that is why we see this diagram of this vertical curve. When we see this diagram, we can recognize it as vertical supply. And that's all from Dandelion today. If you have any questions, please comment down below. And if you would like to stay tuned for further videos, please click subscribe. See you next time.